All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are going to talk about Saquon Barkley and his interview with Dianna Russini, and just kind of go through it and give you my thoughts. With some of his comments, give you my thoughts on what he had to say regarding him signing with the Eagles and leaving the Giants. So he did talk about some of the things he said. He said, I was like, damn, like this is going to stink. It hurt. I wanted to do this, and that's why it hurts. I'm the type of person I envision things. Like, I wanted to be a part of New York and the success and be part of that organization. He said, we talked after the season. They were like, do you still want to be a Giant? And I was like, I already said where I want to be. And they said, we're going to figure it out. We're going to make it work. We'll talk to your agent. They said at the Combine that, we'll have a deal. We have something ready for you. Then we come find out they didn't want to send me an offer because they didn't want to be disrespectful or whatever. Joe said on that episode, and talking about Hard Knocks. He also said, it was kind of weird for me. I felt like the only way the Giants wanted me was if I was going to go show my worth to somebody. Like I was able to prove that a team would want to pay me. So like then maybe they would want to pay me. And then he also said Joe Schoen had a price point where he was willing to pay and he wasn't going to go over it. Kudos to him for sticking to his gut, but yeah, I kind of felt like it was a little disrespectful, to be honest. You go see what you are worth, and then if you're worth that, we'll see if you're worth it. Maybe we'll match it. And he also said, I feel like it's going to be the best chance for me to succeed as a player, succeed in my career in the team, talking about the Eagles. The most important thing where I can go as a team, where I can feel like I can actually help a team take it to the next level where they're trying to go, and it was Philly. So he did also say in the interview that, the Giants not paying him. He did say how, the Giants had other needs that they needed to address. And, right now there's other teams out there that are in a better position to compete for a championship as opposed to the Giants. So he kind of understood that as well. But I don't think he should take it as disrespect because the Giants had a number in their mind that they were willing to give Saquon Barkley. And obviously that number is going to be different from other teams and what they are going to offer him. So they were like, go test the market. And that's what many players do. Many players across all sports. Teams will say, go test the market, see what you get, come back to us, and we'll see if we match. We'll tell you if we'll match it or not. Now, the Giants never matched any kind of offer right when he was about to sign with the Eagles. They did give him previous contracts in previous seasons, but they didn't get once they found out the number was too high from Saquon's agent, they were like, yeah, we're not going to do this. Which I'm okay with because, and he said it himself, the Giants had other issues that they needed to address. But you know what? He did want to be a Giant, but at his price, not at the Giants' price. And he did bring up how, Joe Schoen in the Hard Knocks episode was saying that it was taking years off of his life, and Saquon said, well, what do you think it's doing to me? It was a stressful time. Now, he did talk about how when they were going over the different teams that he could potentially sign with, he did say the only negative about going to the Eagles was, the backlash from the fans. But the Eagles checked all of his boxes. And he did say that, he talked to John Mara, he talked to Dable, he talked to Steve Tisch, he talked to Joe Schoen. Now, we didn't see that in the Hard Knocks of him, reaching out, that they didn't include. They wanted to keep that private, I guess. If they were able to get footage of it. And John Mara wanted Saquon to be a Giant, but it's just the Giants had to take the better approach, and that was the more of the business side. Think with your head, not with your heart, and say, you know what, we got to let this player go. Because we have other issues that we need to address, and overpaying for Saquon, paying him a lot of money is not going to help us. And that has nothing to do with Saquon the player, because Saquon is a very good player. But the Giants just have so many other issues. If the Giants were a team that was right there, that was a legit playoff contender, and maybe, has a chance to win a Super Bowl, then yeah, they're going to bring Saquon back. They're going to make it a priority. But it's just they have so many other needs, they had to let him go. Now, he did also say, And I could kind of understand from his perspective a little bit. But again, it has to go with the position. He did talk about how, he said he's like that he wasn't upset about these players getting paid. He talked about Daniel Jones getting paid, and Dexter Lawrence getting paid, Andrew Thomas getting paid. He talked about these guys getting their money. But he said, how come they didn't do the same thing with him? Why are they not, being more urgent, and why are they not getting the deal done with me? And they're prioritizing they kind of were prioritizing it, but you know what? Prioritizing getting deals done with those other players. He kind of just felt like, but you know what? Because those positions are more important, they feel. Dexter Lawrence on the defensive line, Andrew Thomas on the offensive line. Andrew Thomas is one of the best left tackles in the NFL. Dexter Lawrence is a really good player on the defensive line. And Daniel Jones at the time, he plays quarterback, which is the most important position on your team. So, yeah, the Giants were doing all that, but they also were trying to offer Saquon a contract that he didn't want. He wanted more. So, because he also said that too in the interview, that they were paying all these other guys, they were working things out with them, but they weren't working things out with Barkley. So it was tough because you know what, I think both sides they still wanted to have this relationship. Like Saquon, they still wanted him to be a Giant, but it's just they really had to make a business decision. So, and he also talked about how he had a goodbye video ready to go, and he was going to post it on social media. But because of how certain Giant fans reacted, he just never posted it. But he did say that was like immature of him. You can't let that get to you. I mean, listen, on the sports network here, we get comments of people trolling and saying weird things towards us. But you know what? You just got to ignore it. It's hard. It's really hard to do it, but you have to. So, and listen, myself as a Giant fan, I don't have any negativity towards Saquon because I understand why he went to Philly. Now, I wish he would have went to like the Texans or another team, not a division rival, but you know what? The Eagles have a very good team. They have a very good team. They have a ton of talent, and you know what? He could be one of the missing pieces for them to get back to the Super Bowl. Now, we talked about DeAndre Swift before and how he did a nice job for the Eagles, but who would we rather have right now, DeAndre Swift or Saquon Barkley? He's going to be an upgrade. And the Eagles, they're going to get back to running the football like they did back in 2022. They got him, Gainwell, a couple of other running backs as well. I mean, they don't have Boston Scott anymore. No more. There's no Rashad Penny. I think he signed somewhere else. I'm not 100% sure where he signed, but I'm pretty sure a team picked him up. But he barely played. I thought that was going to be a good signing for them, but he did not play for the Eagles at all last year, really. Limited playing time. But Saquon's going to do great with the Eagles. It's just unfortunate they couldn't figure something out. I mean, because he wasn't going to take a pay cut. He wanted to get paid how he felt he should get paid. But the Giants did the right thing. They didn't budge. They're like, this is what we will give you. Well, not that they were saying that to him, but they said this is the number that we have in mind. And once it got to a certain point, they're like, we're out. So. And he also did talk about when we saw Joe Schoen call Saquon, and Saquon just sounded like he had no interest in talking to Joe Schoen. He did say that that's kind of how he talks on the phone. Now, I don't know if he's telling the truth or if he's lying. I don't know, but that's what he said. Because it came off like Saquon had no interest in talking to Joe Schoen. I forget which episode it was. It was either the first or the second episode. But yeah, Saquon had no interest in talking to Joe Schoen, it seemed like. But he said that's just how he talks when he talks on the phone. So, take that however you want to, if he's telling the truth or not. I don't know. But and then he also talked about how he tried to recruit Jason Kelsey, get him to come back to the Eagles. Um, he did talk about Cam Jurgens, who's taken over, saying he's a smart player and that he's excited to work with him. That's Jason Kelsey's replacement. He did say that Howie Roseman was the first person to reach out. He did say that that Jalen Hurts was the first player to reach out. And he did talk about leadership roles and how because and I've talked about the Eagles and how certain guys have left, and other guys got to step up in that role, like Jalen Hurts, and he just said by the I forget exactly what he said, but he's just like you got Jalen Hurts, you got A.J. Brown, you got all these stars on the team, follow in their footsteps. He was saying something about the names. Like you got Jalen Hurts, who's a solid quarterback, although had a down year last year. A.J. Brown's one of the best receivers in the NFL. Um, have those guys lead by example. And I get where he's coming from with that. But and I think Saquon's going to step in there, and he's going to be a leader in there as well. The Eagles are getting a good one, and it's just unfortunate that again he's not with the Giants anymore. But got to move on. You got to turn the page. So, but yeah, let me know what you guys think though about the Saquon stuff. If you were able to listen to the interview, what did you think? What were some of your takeaways from it? But yeah, I know we've talked about Saquon a lot the past couple of weeks, but between Hard Knocks and then him, having him being interviewed by Dianna Russini, there's a lot going on. But yeah, just circle that calendar when the Giants play the Eagles, because it's gonna be especially MetLife, because it's gonna be crazy. So we're gonna take our next break, and then when we come back, we will talk about Kyle Shanahan and Bill Belichick. Shanahan offering Belichick a defensive coordinator position, and Belichick declined it. So I just wanted to get into that and give you my thoughts when we come back from our next break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.